Like most people, I'd learned to ride a bike as a kid, but it wasn't a sport for me or even a daily form of commuting. However, my interest was piqued by a New Zealand government initiative that was to spend around $50 million on cycle tracks around the country. As well as finding out for myself how this policy could contribute to the growth of the economy, why not head off on a cycling holiday as something totally different to do? Despite having travelled around the country a fair bit, what a great way to explore off-road areas while doing something completely out of the ordinary for me. The whole Cycleway project featured around 20 tracks throughout the country. It seemed obvious to me which one to do first. It was the original track that had been around for a while, the Central Otago Rail Trail. The track was based at the other end of the country to where I live in Auckland. I knew this area well, it was close to Queenstown, always a huge drawcard to me, and possibly one of the best places you could find anywhere in the world. On paper anyway, this track didn't seem too difficult in terms of riding for someone that didn't really ride. Some kind of reference to trains can't climb hills was the clincher for me, as it was actually based on the old railway tracks itself. And it travelled through some of the most beautiful and variable countryside to be found anywhere. Well, I talked myself into this, so I had to find a couple of mates that were keen to come along. It seemed to be something you'd share with others. So why not hit up one of my old cycling mates to add some sort of experience, and another mate, well, like myself, wasn't a cyclist, but certainly fit enough for our journey. His name is Steve Callinan, and he originally comes from England, but now works out of Auckland in the fitness industry. So we'll certainly have no problems with completing the trip. I also think it would be great to take someone not originally from this country to really see how he finds a trip off the beaten track. Steve was a professional soccer player back home, having played for Norwich and alongside some guys who later went on to play for England. It was soccer that brought Steve to New Zealand, and through his love of fitness has now branched out into other areas. Like the two guys I'm taking on this journey, I also have a strong sporting background, having played soccer like Steve and also being a Gravity Games medalist in the sport of Thundercat racing, where I raced internationally. I'd had my own business for some time and was in need for some adventure. The missing link in our story had to be a cyclist, and preferably someone who really knew what he was doing and had raced all over the world.
You can't just throw it back in your car. You need a trailer, you know? I was sitting there laughing.
Stew Imrie watched the cycling at the '76 Olympics with awe. His father challenged him to save the money for a race bike. First time on a track he won and backed this up a week later. Within a few years he was representing his country. During his race career he raced professionally against Lance Armstrong in the USA. One of them was clean. Stuart has ridden the Central Otago Rail Trail previously. In fact, once before it was even a trail. So the three of us were off to Queenstown. Always a great place to fly into because of the spectacular nature of the scenery on approach and the anticipation of all things that could be done there. We would be doing the 150-kilometre long Central Otago Rail Trail over 3 days. It was a track for all comers, not just serious cyclists. So it wasn't just about the bike, but the journey itself.